So this is the Porta de Ravessa Alentejo, and this is another Portuguese wine. Region on this one?
Alentejo is the region.
Alentejo, okay.
I suppose you'd call it a Tinto. It's another blend, a red blend. But yeah, Alentejo is the region, Porta de Ravessa, the winemaker. And these guys are, so Alentejo, let's do the region first. Biggest region in Portugal, just below Douro and Dow, so sort of the last bottom third before you get down into Algarve. These are the flat, hot plains of Portugal, if you like, a bit like La Mancha in Spain. So no mountains, not much hills, just long flat plains where really, really sun-kissed, the hot territory here. Yeah. You've got a blend of lots of different grapes in here. I think the only named ones are Trocadero and Alicante Bochet, but I think there are some others in there. But again, very, very typical of this type of region. Just throw in whatever is grown in the field well that year, and it will change each time. But this is the hotspot of Portugal. So unlike maybe perhaps Algarve, you'll think of that as the hottest place because it's down in the south, but it's got those sea breeze influences to cool it down a bit when it comes to winemaking. But here, central Portugal, super exposed grapes, this is where the big red wines come from.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a step up. I mean, it's only 13.5, so it's not super, it's not up there in terms of the alcohol, but it's a bit chunkier than some of the other Portuguese stuff that, that we've had in.
And the fruit flavour for me is really, really concentrated. It's in jammy territory. I'm not going to say it's jammy, but it's in jammy territory. There's a slight cookedness to the fruity flavours. So if you get any black fruits in there, I think they taste a little bit stewed, a little bit hot.
On the road to Jamtown,
on the road,
hasn't arrived just yet.
Not quite yet.
No, you wouldn't be recommending this to someone who who picks up the jammy roux or anything
it's not quite there.
But again, Alentejo, this kind of Portuguese red, what would it be similar to maybe for your more, international varietal kind of?
Yeah, we're sort of in Shiraz territory here, so obviously Australian Shirazes can go into like the 14s, the 14.5s, and it's not as hot as that and it's not as big as that. We're definitely in hot Shiraz territory. So if you like big, sort of stewed red fruit flavours, stewed dark fruit flavours, and a hint of spice, and sometimes a little bit of oak in Shiraz, and this has a little bit of oak as well, I think. It's in that sort of Shiraz territory for me.
Yeah, you say it's got a little bit of oak in it. It is a fairly big red, but it is quite smooth. I'm already sat here going, I could probably get down to about here before I think I'll probably have a glass of water, which, we can't condone. But it's I could see this because it's not massive. I could see this being a good wine, sat in the garden. You wouldn't necessarily have to have food with it. A lot of people probably would. But what would you eat with something like this?
Well, yeah, it's very much a Portuguese table wine. So before I do the food pairing, a little bit of context. This is what's called a cooperative made wine. So very, very common in Europe. They do it in France. They do it in Spain. I'm pretty sure they do it in Italy, though I can't think of an example. But in Portugal, it started off in the 50s as just 14 super, super small family winemakers. We're talking families where they make wine and 50% of it is just their own consumption. Drink, And so they've clubbed together. They're now 200 families sort of grouped together to make them more commercially viable so that they can export to us and other places around the world. So the wines were designed to be on the table as a family around dinner, and they're fantastic all-rounders. So before we say what it should go with, what I would say is these types of wines are just perfect for banging in the middle of a table, at a party, at a wedding, at a family gathering, that sort of thing, because they're just built for being all-rounders. They're a mix of grapes. They've got stable weather conditions, so there's nothing too extreme about them that just make them fantastic all-rounders.
It is screaming wedding table wine.
Yeah, wedding table wine for sure. You're going to regret it tomorrow, but it's not too crazy.
The wedding table wine is why I'm looking at the bottom of the bottle going, I could do that, I could see that.
But it's not a 14.5% monster that will kill you off for the working week.
Yeah.
But if I was going to pair it, we're in Shiraz territory here, so, it's meaty, it's barbecue. For me, it's got the similar thing to Shiraz, which is like a smokiness to it. There's a slightly savouriness to it. There's fruit for sure, but there's savoury as well. So anything barbecued, that's for me.
Right, I'll get the coal out.
Cheers.